Okay, here we go.
Welcome, everyone. I call the October 26, 2022 regular board meeting to order pursuant to Idaho Code, Section 33506 and 33510. Will the clerk determine if a quorum is present, please, when I talk?
5 trustees in attendance and a quorum is present.
Okay, thank you. There is nothing to be added to the agenda, so does it look good? All right, thank you. And we move on to approval of the minutes.
I move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 approve the minutes of the regular board meeting September 28th, 2022.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes have been approved 5-0. So we move on to good news announcements and or presentations. Yeah, what you got, Jim?
I would like to just repeat the news about Principal of Lena Whitmore, Kendra McMillan, being honored in Washington, D.C. as a National Distinguished Principal. So that's a real feather in our cap for the school district. And then there were some Moscow students headed to FFA convention. Let's see, Smith and Salisbury. Let's see, Simon Salisbury and Samantha Smith. So Samantha Smith, a sophomore, and Simon Salisbury, junior, at Moscow High School.
Any other good news?
Well, not good news, but I wanted to honor the memories of Lance Avendroth. That we haven't met since then, and he was actually a student in McDonald Elementary when I taught there. And also Mary Blanton and Trish Verdal have passed away in the last couple months, and they were longtime teachers.
Thank you. Other? All right. So we move on to our public comment period. Public comments is a time to present concerns, issues, and information to the Board of Trustees. The board hears your comments but does not answer questions or respond at this time, but may ask the superintendent or designee to respond to the issue presented if further action is warranted. And the reason we do not respond or answer questions is they are not agenda items, and we can only deal with what's on the agenda. So please state your name for the record. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Are there any public comments? All right, if you come to the podium, please, sir. That way you're on camera.
My name is James McLaughlin. I had come here before earlier this summer. So I have 3 things just to go over real quick tonight or put out. First off would be the roundtable discussion that I took part in 2 weeks ago to help kind of configure and refocus the board. I took part in that 2 weeks ago. It was great. I think that it's something that the community really needed, and for those of us that were there, felt like we actually had a voice and were able to help impact to the direction that you folks will be heading. So there's the first thing. Second thing, I'd like to know, and I know that you can't respond to this, but I'd like to know who I need to speak to about potential control or decision-making process of the baseball fields from March until June or March until May for the high school or the school district over the city during that time period to help facilitate our home games when they are here due to the amount of home games that were skipped last year, baseball specific, not softball. And then I guess softball could probably fall into that as well because we need to put back the responsibility of the fields, and we're hosting on the school district versus the city, I think. So the third one would be, I brought up the transportation conflict and issue that we had last summer with our boys not having transportation provided by the school district to their regional games and regional competitions, and it could have been one of the factors that contributed to our loss and not moving on to the next step in the state championship competition for baseball. And I'd like to know, and since I can't directly ask for any answers to that, if any discussion on that had been further and what minutes I might need to look into to find further discussion on that, or if any had all been talked about. That's all I have. Was I under 3 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
All right, thank you.
And now I'm off to an orchestra concert. So, all right. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you. See you.
Any other public comments? No, I didn't think so, but I thought I'd ask anyway. All right, so we move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, first item, Chamber of Commerce, Sam, who runs the chambers, the director, has commented to me that she would be happy to host a meet and greet with our school board, with community and businesses. And I think that'd be a great opportunity for our board. What I would, if you're interested in doing that, we would, if we had about 3 dates that we could provide her, would be great.
And we're talking about,
We can either do a
evening or-
morning or to an evening. I think we might get more people if we did an evening event. So yeah,
So by evening, you meant 5 p.m. though, right? Or could it be 7?
it probably could be 5 or 7. She's pretty open for it. What works for you?
well, personally for me, either 5 or 7 would be better than morning, because
Yeah, okay.
I have to teach in the morning, so.
Okay.
I think I'm almost always free at 7. So, but I could probably make 5 work
Yeah.
as well.
I prefer 7.
Okay. Do you have any specific days or days that don't work for you?
Over
when I'm
what
at
time
convention.
period? Like the next 2 weeks, the next month?
I would say the next 2 weeks would probably be pretty good. I know I am out of town next Thursday and Friday. I got a meeting down in Boise, but
And then we're all out of town at the end of the
9,
next
10,
week, right?
11.
yeah, then
9, 10, 11.
because the board, so it'd
Eight
have to
would be
be
good.
early that week or.
So next week, I'm free Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the week after that, Monday and Tuesday, I guess.
Well, Tuesday's election day. If
I'm
that's the one
voting
you're talking
early.
about.
Yeah,
but
but we,
other people
but
might
we
not
won't
be, so it
have the
wouldn't be.
people.
They should be.
Yeah.
You're not gonna wait till 5, are you, Dawn?
I'm thinking of
but
other
we-
people.
We wanna get
What
as many
people are
people
doing.
there.
That evening.
Yeah, next week I'm fine, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, I could do Wednesday, Thursday.
Isn't Greg gone Thursday,
I'm
and
gone
Friday?
Thursday and
Okay.
I'd probably like to be there.
Yeah.
Well, on Monday's Halloween, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't do
I have
Monday.
plans.
Alright, so how did Tuesday and Wednesday, 1st and 2nd look, Dr. Bailey?
That works for me.
But if we're
Alright,
all
so
there, don't we have to post it?
Yeah, we would have to post it.
Doesn't it have to be posted a week in advance? So, okay.
Is it 48 hours?
Is that, oh, okay.
48 hours unless it's emergency, then you can do
Oh,
24.
yeah, okay.
So there's 2 dates.
Tuesday.
Wednesday would work best. I can't meet on Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
So Wednesday the 2nd.
Wednesday, the
Second.
second, right?
And if that doesn't work for her, then we'd have to skip the next week and jump further in, because we're all gone
Yeah,
next week.
yeah.
We have a board meeting that next week
16th.
because of
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
yeah. We could do so that would be like the
We could do the 15th, I suppose.
15th?
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tuesday the 15th
Oh,
would be
I
fine.
couldn't do Tuesday.
couldn't do Tuesday.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. How about,
I could do Thursday.
The 17th.
17th?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so we got the 2nd and the 17th. I can go with those 2 numbers. And you said 7? Okay. I wonder if that's gonna keep some people away. Is there any way you could do a little bit earlier?
We could do 6:30.
What?
We could do 6:30.
All right.
That's
Or
better.
6.
So is this open to the public or just invited
I think
businesses?
it has
or-
to be.
I think it has to be, and I think that'd be great. I mean, it's just, I think it's gonna be down at the chamber building, and it's just really a casual chance to meet and,
Okay,
ask
so it's-
questions and that, so.
It's like a roaming
Yeah,
type of thing, okay.
yeah.
But not public participation, right?
Just trying to get a,
I think they'll be able to ask you questions.
Oh, okay.
That's, yeah. So, okay, I'll talk to her and I'll send you an email. Okay, all right, great. Okay, thank you.
I have a question, sorry
yes.
about that. Is there a way, if they announce and invite people to come, is there a way to have like topics
Topics.
ahead of time so that we know kind of what the,
Yeah, let me
Feeling
see
is,
on
or-
that, see if I can ask them if they have topics that they specifically wanna talk about and that. We'll say that, you don't wanna talk about specific, individual, student issues and that, but maybe, they'll probably, I would think facilities would be a thing that would come up. Typically, safety is always an issue that comes up.
so it'd be more of a panel?
I think it, that,
Trying to
I'll find
envision.
out.
Okay,
I'll find out exactly how. They've done it with legislators, they've done it with, and they just wanted to, as elected officials, do it for the board too. I think it'd be a good opportunity, so. I might see if I could push Jen to come with us too, so if there's any questions there as well. Okay?
So to cover ourselves from an open meeting law point, seems to me like the public should know what we're discussing. So you might just say, future direction of Moscow School District or future priorities of Moscow School District. That leaves it kind of open, and anybody who has an interest in sort of long-term planning or, as opposed to specifics, then they know that might come up.
Okay. Okay.
So they have a right
Yeah.
to know what the board might be saying.
Okay. I'll work on that as well. So, okay,
Okay, thanks.
okay. Second thing, just awareness, I sent an email out that I send out every year. It's okay, snow days are possibly coming. It's one that I just kind of remind people that my job is to determine if school's open. It's their opportunity to decide if they think their child should be at school or not, depending on the weather and how it impacts them. But hopefully, knock on wood, we don't have to have a snow day. I've had people say, well, they've earned the right to have a snow day and that. I look at to the impact that it does on our community of people not being able to go to work, as well as it's really about the safety. But I also look at how many kids may not get a breakfast or a lunch too. So I look at all these different things. So my preference is to have school, but I also will look at, the weather conditions. And we look at it pretty hard to the point where U of I, watches what we do, and so do other school districts around. So it's just that time of year, it got cold, so I figured I'd send that out. The third item is contract busing issue. This is an issue just to keep you updated. This is an issue that we had a spot check, and they stated that the two charter schools that we work with each year and bus their students, that we were not putting it, the charter schools weren't putting it out to bid to pick up their kids. Well, there's no other busing system around, and what we would do is we would bus the kids because they're students in our school district zone, and we would get the reimbursement from the state and the 15% roughly that we have to pay, that's what the charter schools pay. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but the state said that they had to go through the process and ask for the money through them rather than through us. So we did a corrective action plan and said that we will do this. We also, as you know, we're trying to push legislation to make it so we don't have to do that. But as typical, if there's something that we're not doing correctly, we do a corrective action plan, get approved, and then move on from there. We're being told that they have to go backwards and ask us for funding. And it doesn't match up with the funding what the two charter schools will make. So someone's gonna lose some money, and that's not correct. And that's where we're having a battle with them currently. We do have both our representatives, both Representative Mitchell and Senator Nelson working with us on this because they see that this isn't right. So we're working on it, and I just wanted to update you that that's still in the process. We were told that we had to just move it forward, and now they're changing what they said, and that's our kind of argument right now. So just to let you know, just
Greg, I
bringing
don't
it
know
out.
if it matters to you or not, but your calendar is up on the big screen.
Oh, good, guys, this is how my life is. Okay, thank you. I thought I had this frozen, yeah. Okay.
But we are still busing them, right?
Yes, yes.
That's the important
Yes, we're
part.
still busing them. It's a good working relationship we've had with our two charter schools for years. And we want to continue that, but we don't want to have it where it's hitting us financially when it's costs with the charter schools. And the charter schools understand that. So it's just a matter of doing it correctly, or getting the law changed, which is what we're hoping for this legislative session. So, but that's it for my report. I will tell you, we did have a presentation last night for part of Red Ribbon Week, and we had two officers come talk, and the crowd was small. We would have liked to seen the crowd a little bit larger, 40 people, maybe. But it was interesting. I mean, it's of the numbers that the police are dealing with some of the larger, more deadly drugs in the area. So it was good information. Parents had some good questions, and the officers did a great presentation. So there. One of the things that they have is a drug dog at present time. There's discussion about, possibility of bringing a drug dog into our schools. I think it's something that the community has to weigh in on if we do that. I can tell you that my past school district had that, and we did it in a more of a safety factor, not a gotcha, but more of a, we just want to make sure that there aren't drugs in our school. So that's something I think down the road we probably would want to talk about and get a lot of feedback from our community on something like that, if that interests you. But that just came up last night. So, but that's currently other things that I'm doing. And next week I'll be going down to the state to talk with other administrators in regards to legislation that we are looking to move forward on. If you notice in the paper today, it was interesting because they talked about that they have a committee about facilities. And lo and behold, they talked about, possibly putting funds in the permanent building fund, the one bill that we wanted to push this year, so they are talking about that. They're also giving suggestions of, possibly, providing loans that are with no interest or actually paying for facilities, at least a basic facility. So at least we're moving forward on the conversation. This is the best thing we've seen and I've seen in 30 years. So I'm glad that they're finally acknowledging that they have a responsibility, and they are now looking at how it will reduce our community members by possibly, if they help us with this, it reduces our taxes, or our chance of our taxes increasing. So I'm pleased that the discussion's going forward. It's been a long push to get them to even talk about it. So that's it for my report. Jen?
Good evening. The audit is complete, as you saw in board docs, and as you know, it's a long process to complete, but the process is very efficient and streamlined with Tony Matson, Jen Clark, and Bailey Olmsted from Hayden Ross. So a big thank you to the Hayden Ross team for their hard work and close attention to detail. My next steps then are to submit the annual report, which I generate from Skyward, our accounting software, and a PDF copy of the audit to the State Department. And then I'll submit the audit to the Government Finance Officers Association for the Certificate of Excellence, and I'll do that next week. The ESSER monitoring tool information has been submitted that I talked about last month, and the next step would be for the State Department to reach out and request any further information that they would deem necessary. Shannon and I will work through the upcoming IDEA audit, which is due mid-November. And then in the meantime, I'll start collecting data for the ESEA title programs audit that I'll be working with Carrie on. The budget revision process is up next. I'm planning to meet with the buildings and departments to work through any needed revisions in the next couple of weeks. And then our office is currently down one staff member, and we are planning to start the interview process next week. So hopefully we'll hire somebody. Just a COVID funding update. The business office and HR office are currently working on the additional compensation stipends for staff. This allocation will be made available in the November paychecks. This allocation is based on the State Department's ICFTE calculation. We also recently were awarded another Recruit, Hire, and Retain Award from the U.S. Department of Education in the amount of $2,500. Shannon applied for this award. She asked for $10,000. We received $2,500. And these dollars are specifically earmarked for special education. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, as part of the supply chain allocations, also awarded MSD an additional $40,488 for our student nutrition services. And there are, again, specific guidelines on how these dollars must be spent, as with all COVID dollars. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Butch Feely, Operations Director.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. With Buildings and Grounds, Dr. Bailey talked about his letter going out, but our boilers are up and running and heat's being provided. We bring in some services to check them, and they are all up and good and producing heat for our buildings. We just have a couple small parts on order, and with the supply chain, it'll be about 4 weeks out, but it won't impact anything because everything is up and running. We did a pre-bid walkthrough with Train and Grop and an area roofer to walk through the McDonald roof and check on any problems or any issues that they potentially see. The other piece is one thing with our Buildings and Grounds. This last couple weeks, we've had quite a few of our custodians out, and I just want to thank Michael Martin and Maxwell Kiernan, who is our grounds guys, who have been coming in and putting a lot of extra duties covering custodians that have been out with illness. Onto the tech side, we are sitting really well right now. We had our press box fiber project completed. We've got all of our test results for all the fiber that's running, and we've got some great numbers and great connectivity out there. We've cleaned up all the minor projects that was associated with that, and it's up and running now. On transportation, the bus bid documents are out and they're going to be due November 14th. And our buses that we purchased last year should be arriving in mid-November. So it's been a long time coming, but they will be here soon. Last week was our school bus safety week, and all the routes completed evacuation drills, and we had full cooperation from all the students, and it all went well. Finally, with nutrition, we've submitted a grant for a new stove at Russell. We'll hope to hear from that in late November. If approved, it's going from a gas to an electric stove that's down in the kitchen, and our only line that feeds that runs all around the school. So if we ever have any issues up front with gas, we're going to have some issues. So hopefully we can get that grant and purchase an electric oven for there. And the last thing is we're working on our student nutrition debt. We've seen a lot of rise after coming off of free lunches for so long with our through COVID. We've had some students charging and having some debt. We're putting in a policy so students can't charge additional dollars to their account unless they have a balance. So we'll never not feed kids, and but they can charge additional items if they have a la carte options or extra milk or a second meal. So we're putting that in place to help keep down our student nutrition debt. And that's all I have for my report.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie Brooks, Curriculum Director.
Yeah, so I am excited tonight to give you a little bit of information on assessment. Yesterday, the idahonews.org put out an article called Celebrating Successes, Idaho ISAT High Performers in Top 10 List, and it was published just yesterday. Moscow High School was ranked number 7 in the top 10 traditional public schools in Idaho for their performance of 81.4%. That's just phenomenal. That's the proficiency rate on the ISAT ELA, English Language Assessment. And then the state proficiency target was 68.7, just to give you a comparison there. So I wanted to say congratulations to the Moscow High School for such great performance. But in addition to that, the Moscow School District ranked number 9 in the top 10 traditional school districts in ELA for their performance as a district with a proficiency rate of 65.8%. So I wanted to congratulate the Moscow School District. And we weren't mentioned in math or science. We just recently, like within a few days, have received, I believe toward the end of last week, we finally got clean data from the State Department of Education on our ISAT scores. So I'm not sure that this is the cleaned up data or not, but just to give you an idea of math, in 3rd grade, we had 66% proficient as compared to 51 at the state level. In 4th grade, 62% were proficient as compared to 49% at the state level. In 5th grade, it was 52% proficient as compared to 43. And 6th grade was 45% as compared to 41. 7th grade, 53% as compared to 42. 8th grade, 49% as compared to 36, and 10th grade was 47% as compared to 33. So math is definitely our area to work on and improve on, but we are still outperforming the state quite a lot, actually. And then in science, 5th grade was at 60% as compared to the state, which was 43%. 8th grade was 55% as compared to 41, and 11th grade was 60% as compared to 38. So I was really proud of our school district. I also wanted to let you know that I had the privilege, along with several other district administrators, of attending, and I'm going to botch this name, EVAS. Is that how you say that? EVAAS?
Yeah, I didn't know if you said it or just it was the initials.
Right,
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
So this platform, I believe, was purchased or put in place by the State Board of Education. And I lost my place there, get me, okay, here it is. And they are partnering with this EVAS platform. Our state and this platform are partnering to upload all of our student achievement data into it, which will harness the power of data for change. So we can really drill down here. It was phenomenal. I am so excited. I cannot wait. We only had 2021 data in there, but they said that the state is working to dump the 2022 data in. You can pull up ACT scores, SAT scores, ISAT scores, Idaho Reading Indicator scores. We can look at ourselves as a district, a building, all the way down to the student level. I was able to click on homeless students, since I'm the homeless liaison for the district, to see how our homeless kids are performing in comparison to their peers. Any subgroup just about that you want to look at, you can, and it's truly going to be a game changer. Administrators, every building principal will have access to this tool, as will classroom teachers. And it showed how it would even go into how to group students. You know, if you needed to group kids based on skill levels, you could do that, which would be really beneficial for teachers. But what was really interesting is they showed some diagrams of where they had proficient students, and then when they looked at them, they're looking at growth over time. So they may have been proficient 2 years ago, but where are they today? They're still proficient, but they actually have gone down. And so looking at that is pretty phenomenal. And then they also looked at students who were below proficient, and maybe they're still below proficient, but maybe showed great gains. And so that kind of data is pretty powerful. So I wanted to share that with you. I thought it was exciting, and I think it's going to make a huge impact for all school districts.
I probably want to add to that. I saw it too and watched it. It's actually even got a public sector to it too, that it will allow you to look at the schools and compare the schools and school districts. So like I looked at our school district with like Lakeland, because they are kind of about the same size as our school district, and we're able to see it. And the one thing, like, it showed that they had more growth than we did, but it also shows your achievement level, and our achievement level is much higher. So it allows you to look at a lot of different data. For teachers, we can look at an individual child. They can go that far, and they can look at all the different test scores at the same time, so they can look at this, kind of tell the story a lot better about how a child's doing. It also will compare that child with the state of Idaho kids at the same age and it could be even the same group, like if they're low income or different things, and be able to do a comparison or a prediction of how they could possibly do on a test, so that we could look at students that are possibly could be predicted to test low, and we could identify them and provide additional help. So we've been asking for this for a long time. We've been sending data down to the state for years, and it never came back. It never came back into a situation where we could really take it and use it. They finally have done that, so we're excited about that. It's going to be something that a parent can look at and see how their school is doing as well as the board. But I was really pleased with it. It's one of those that you get into and you just start playing with it to see everything and see what information you can pull, and there was quite a lot.
So what is the website?
EVAS.
EVAS?
Yeah, I think
EVAS.
EVAS. Yeah.
.com or?
I don't know. I can send you the link if you want.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
I'll send you some.
Yeah.
So it's up and running now.
It
It's up
only
and
has
running.
up to 2021, so we're still waiting for them to load the information from this upcoming year.
Yeah.
So it still kind of just came out, and they've done 2 trainings, one online and one in person. We saw the online one, so.
It's really exciting. I mean, it's endless. The reports that you can do are just endless. The next thing I wanted to just mention again is kind of what Jen said. We're working on our federal programs review, and I've been focusing all week on, or the last couple of days on Title I and getting information out to our Title I schools so that they know what documents for evidence that we need to upload. So that's going to be a lot of work till we wrap that up, and our due date for getting everything turned in for all of our federal programs is January 21st. And then finally, I want to take this time to say a special thank you to Angie Packard. Angie has been keeping me afloat as we lost our old data assessment specialist. So she was my secretary, but she's also the person who runs our student information system. And we have a new assessment specialist, Denise Davis, and she's amazing. But right now she's working solely on learning the student information system piece, which means I don't have a secretary. And Angie has been that person for me. So during this time, she has created all of my purchase orders and expenditures and entered expenditures into 20 different budgets. It's a lot to keep track of, into these spreadsheets that we keep while answering the phone, fingerprinting new employees, taking pictures of staff for lanyards, serving as the superintendent's secretary, and then the board clerk. I couldn't make it without Angie Packard. So I just wanted to say
Mainly
thank
the
you.
assistant for the superintendent,
Well, and she answers my emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call her and she solves my problem within less than a minute, so, you know.
She's amazing. She's really been a help, and it's made this whole situation work. And it's given Denise the time she needs to really get, trained in that student information system without having to add a bunch of other things to her plate. So, thank you.
Well, thank you to both of you.
And these are the name tags that we're putting out, and as of November 1st, all of our staff will be wearing name tags, as well as visitors coming into the school, our substitutes. So we've been, we can do it through the photographers when they do school pictures, but Angie also has it set up in our office, so when we fingerprint someone, we can put a name tag, and she does pretty good with the picture taking too. So.
She made you look good?
Can't be done.
But she'll take multiple pictures, tell you that.
Oh, okay. So if you're not smiling.
There's only so much. Okay, Shannon Richards,
Yes,
Director.
good to be with you this evening. Within regards to special education, we continue to hire. As of today, we have 11 special education paraprofessional openings. We are making forward motion, we truly are. I think we're in the last 12 hours before I get an SLP Parapro hired. And we were able to do one other interview this week for one of our open Parapro positions. We just don't have anybody in our candidate pool. We need people to apply. But as they show up, we get them interviewed and figure out if they'll fit some of our needs. So we continue to work on that. With regards to our SLP open position, no one's applied for that. So we switched gears to looking at teletherapy options, and we entered into a contract with Presence Learning back in August, and then they couldn't find anyone to send to us. So they just informed us Tuesday that they now have a therapist for us, and that it looks like they'll be able to meet our needs on the days that we need therapy services. So that feels, I'm breathing again. While those services have been on pause, our SLP, the 3 SLPs we do have, they continue to share the extra load of that missing person. So they've been doing evaluations, extra IEP meetings, and they had even grouped kids to fit in services for 19 additional students on top of their caseloads. So we didn't think we were gonna get a teletherapist, so we were working around it and had a plan. So it's a relief to know that we might have some help starting in the next few weeks. The kids at the middle school have been receiving services from that SLP Parapro. She's supervised and monitored, but we didn't have anyone for Lena. So we're gonna work really hard to get those lost services made up. and get the rest of those kids whole when it comes to their special ed services. Within our 1821 program, I reported that they're on campus now with that new program called Quest. And so as we move forward in the development of that program, they're putting together now an advisory board, and they've asked me to be a part of that. We are in partnership with them, so I'm there. And they have some professors in Idaho Vocational Rehabilitation. I'll talk with Andy Sheaf, who's spearheading this, to see what other representation we want, like parents, and I'll keep reporting on how that program's developing. We're going to be focusing on developing the referral process and enrollment guidance. Not all students are probably ready for that environment, and we want to make sure that we're being very transparent and very clear with our public to know who would be a good candidate for the 1821 program that's housed on campus. Jen mentioned our budget is due November 15th. We also have November child count. That's a really important reporting IC upload time for us. And so we are looking and making sure we've missed no students in that report for November. Internally, we have to annually do a general supervision file review. The State Department requires us to pull our best files, look at them for compliance. So I've asked all of my special ed teachers and my SLPs to pull their best file and to do that self-check. So they are working on that now. When that gets done, I'll have about 22 files coming to me. I'll be another set of eyes looking for compliance. And then we submit files to the state. This year we have an abbreviated file review because of last year's file review went so well. So that is an option, and we get that option this year. So we don't have to send all special ed documents, we just have to send the program, the IEP, the Individualized Education Program. So that'll be a little bit of a lesser load this year. And as Jen mentioned, I applied for that retained recruitment monies. It was unspent money at the state level, so they wanted to push it out to districts. And so Dr. Bailey and I have been bouncing ideas on how to recruit or retain the wonderful staff we have. We can send them to professional development. We have new teachers that need mentoring, and we have teachers stepping up to be those mentors. We spend lots of money on advertising, so we'll work to make sure we spend that in a real wise way. With regards to Adventure Club, they'll be up and running on those days where we have no students in our buildings, October 31 and November 1st. They'll be at McDonald again and be serving about 50 students. So we're glad to be up and running on those days. Within the world of nursing, the immunization report is due, I think, November 1 or October 31. It's right at the end of October, and they have to report immunization rates for certain grades. So our nurse is working on that. She shared with me that our number of diabetic cares, those students that need that intensive diabetic support, we're up to 18. We were at 4 when I started here 10 years ago. So those student daily cares are spread throughout the day, with kids getting checked in the morning, definitely at lunch, in the afternoon before they get back on that bus. And then if they have PE, that does some interesting things to their blood sugars. And so Nurse Jen went to California somewhere for training, and she said it was one of the best conferences she had been at, and she was able to see firsthand new technology. So some of the students have some really advanced technology in the form of pumps, and so their technology is talking to her phone. And so I can be in a meeting with her here at the district office, and her phone will start beeping, and let me check my kids, and then she pulls up, the quick at a glance, what are their blood glucose levels. And so she feels like she's on the cutting edge and maybe even a little ahead as far as the technology, and it's been really helpful. Covering 18 kids across 6 buildings is 4 and 5 times a day is a lot, so that's helping us be successful. And that's what I have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the end of my report.
Alright, thank you, everyone. So we move on to our first discussion item, the audit presentation for Moscow Charter School. Hayden Ross.
Well, thanks for having me. My name's Tony Matson, it's Hayden Ross. I'm a new face to the crew up here, but not a new face to Hayden Ross. So I've been there for just going on just about 10 years now, and I'm sort of the primary audit partner there. So Kevin Smith actually did the charter school. You got two handouts from me, one for the district and then the other one that's got the tab is actually the charter school's financial statement. And I thought I would just give you a 2-minute glimpse on how the charter school went. So if you can't open to that tab, we're just gonna look at the income statement for the charter school real fast. Primarily, we issued, just to kind of give you the basics, we issued the financial statements, the audit, September 19th for the charter school. We issued a clean opinion, which means that we believe that they are fairly stated, no issues there. On that particular tab you're looking at, so you have from kind of left to right, you have your general fund, your bond fund, and all your other special revenue funds. So it's similar to how the school district presents their information. The highlights, general fund added about $54,000 to their fund balance last year, ending with a fund balance of about $762,000, which roughly equates to about 5 or 6.5 months worth of operating expenses. So generally, you like to see somewhere in that neighborhood about 2 months. So charter school's in good shape from that perspective. The other thing, their bond fund, mostly I just wanted to point out that they do have a loan. They did make all their payments last year. Their ending loan balance is just over $1.7 million, and that's expected to be paid off in fiscal year 31. But charter school is in good shape. So unless someone wants me to go in more depth, that was my presentation for the charter school.
Questions or anything? All right, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
So then we move on to item B, the audit presentation for Moscow School District.
All right, this one won't be quite as quick, so we'll get ready. So these are the graphs, so the bound copy that are in front of you. I do it a little bit different than Jen's done it, but it's all kind of the basic information. That bound copy has a narrative in the front. I usually write a little summary of the things I'm going to talk about today, just as a point of reference to go back and you can look at it at a later time. It helps me prepare, and I might as well give you my thoughts in writing while we're there. So that's what that is. But if you can turn to the first graph, and I also have the presentation here on the board, and we'll talk through a couple of things. So. First off, before we kind of dive into the numbers, I got ahead of myself a little bit. I did give Angela the ending governance letter, which is just a required communication letter that talks about some of the new upcoming auditing or accounting standards that are coming down the pipeline. Talks about significant estimates and financial statements, which are really just related to the capital assets and useful lives that the district's appreciating things over. The important things in the letter are that there were no audit differences. I just wanted to take a second to say that the audit, there was very few adjustments to the audit. Jen has basically had everything ready for us to go, and the audit here is one of our cleanest audits that we do. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jen for getting that ready, getting all the accruals and doing all the things that we require of her. So Jen had actually asked me, so what presentation number is this for you this year? And tonight is my 14th this season. So we're at the end, and I can definitely say that Moscow School District had the least amount of adjustments of all the audits that it's working on. So we have that for you. And then the last thing is, and that kind of goes along in the letter too, that we didn't have any disagreements with management. So that's kind of the standard letter for you there. For the financial statements, we also issued a clean opinion for the district, which means that we believe they are fairly stated as presented. The district also has a single audit, so just kind of a single audit has always been something that the district has done. It's not necessarily a financial statement audit, it's more of a compliance audit. It's required when the district has over $750,000 of federal award grant monies. You're required to have a single audit. And we come in and we look at the compliance of a couple of your programs, and we go through and check to make sure that there's an internal control structure in place that sort of provides reasonable assurance that all those compliance items are being followed. And we didn't have any findings in that. We looked at your ESSER dollars, which I know that I've looked at ESSER dollars in almost all of the districts that we've been doing. Some of the interesting notes on that is sort of pre-COVID, the district had about $1.5 million in federal award money come through the district. That was kind of the number. This last year, fiscal year 22, you had just over $4 million. So a significant difference in the amount of actual federal dollars. And 1.9 million of that was all COVID related, all the different COVID dollars that have come out. So that will eventually go away, and the district will probably return back to a more normal year, which is about the $1.5 million worth of federal money. But that's that. We're going to look at, on your financial statements, we're going to look at the what we call net position first, and then we're going to dive in and look at your general fund, debt service fund, and your capital projects fund, and I'll talk as long as I can see interest in what we're talking about. So net position, once a year in your financial statements, the district is presented as if it's a private enterprise. Okay, so it's going to look at the district and say, what are your capital assets? What are your long-term debts? And it's going to kind of give you more of a long-term perspective of the health of the district, as opposed to your day-to-day operations, governmental funds. When you buy a fixed asset, it's just expense. So you don't necessarily have those same long-term components. That's called the net position. So net position is nothing more than the equity of the district. I'm going to just hit on three things, and we'll actually dive into the general fund. This top line here is the ending net position. So on the far right-hand side there, the district ended with a net position of $11,083,000, which was up about $4.2 million year over year. That's great. When I look at this, I like to look at the trend, so you can really see where you have been and where you're going. The net position has been increasing since fiscal year 18, and that's a positive trend, and that's just really what I want to see. You just want to see that sort of building to the financial stability of the district each and every year. The middle line there is your net investment in capital assets. So this is going to be effectively when all of your assets, you purchase them and then you're slowly depreciating them over their useful lives. Total ending balance there was $5,597,000. It was basically flat year over year. You did add about $512,000 to your fixed assets this last year, which was, your 512 was all infrastructure. So you Lena Whitmore Playground, the press box, the scoreboards, the HVAC upgrades started, your intercom upgrades you guys did this last year, elevator upgrades. Those were some of your big projects that you worked on. When I look at your overall net investment in capital asset, what you don't want to see is this falling off too much, right? Because that sort of means that your depreciation is outpacing your replacement, right? So sometimes that will mean that you have some deferred maintenance out there. Your number has been fairly stable. It's been kind of hanging there. It's real close to where it was back in 2013, which means that the district has been sort of maintaining the facilities over the years, but you don't see that dropping off, which is a good thing. And the last piece is the net pension asset or liability. So this is something that I'm not sure that generally talked about in the past. I like to talk about it just because this gives me opportunity to kind of give everybody an update on Percy. But back in 2015, one of the accounting standards came in and said, hey, if you are participating in the public retirement system, and that retirement system is not 100% funded, then there is some theoretical liability that resides at the district, and we want you to go ahead and show that on your financial statements. fiscal year 21 had that low point. So the Percy was 88% funded at the end of fiscal year 21, which equated, like, your portion of that was a unfunded liability of about $10,800,000, which is a big number. You can see, though, for the first time, Percy actually went over 100% funded. So this number lags 1 year, so this is actually 6/30/21. 22 is not going to look as good, but the point here is that Percy is being well managed. Over 100% funded doesn't happen that often, and they talk about a well-funded plan being anything over 80%. So the takeaway there is that Percy is in good shape. They're managing those rates as need be to make sure that they're able to cover all those benefits that they're promised out there. So, yay! Percy is good. This is where I would double clap.
Yeah, gotcha.
All right, so we're going to talk about the general fund. Spend a little bit more time on the general fund, and we'll just kind of briefly go over the debt service and capital projects fund. General fund started the year with a fund balance of $4,558,000. Last year's revenues were $25,690,000. Expenditures were $25,314,000. And the district ended the year with a fund balance of $4,934,000, which was an increase of about $376,000 this last year. If we look at the history, the next one, there we go. I always take a look at the 10-year history just to kind of get a sense of where the district has been. Revenues have been greater than expenses in 6 of the last 10 years. And also in each of the last 3 years. So there was a period 17 to 19 where there was 3 years of losses in the general fund, and that has sort of reversed in the last 3 years. What that has done to the district's fund balance, on the next page. This graph is a little busy, so we'll break it down into 2 parts. The first part is we're going to look at the 2 red lines. Okay. The district has a fund balance policy, which states that your unassigned fund balance will be between 15 and 20% of the subsequent year's budgeted expenditures and outgoing transfers. These 2 red lines represent that 15% and that 20%. So 15% just as I always equate things to months worth of expenditures. 15% is about 1.8 months worth of expenditures. And 20% is about 2.4 months worth of expenditures. So that's your fund balance, minimum fund balance policy that the district has. The 2 darker lines, the 2 black lines, the top line is your ending fund balance. So you can see ending fund balance 2019 sort of had a low. That also kind of represents the change in the levy rate from that point forward. And you then have grown in each of the last 3 years, and you ended at the $4,934,000. Your policy does specifically talk about unassigned fund balance. Okay, we'll talk about the difference, but that's what that bottom line is the actual unassigned fund balance. There's a difference. If you look at the far right-hand side, the difference between your ending fund balance and your ending unassigned fund balance is about $862,000. Why is that? It's because the district has assigned $550,000 of their fund balance as assigned for the bond rating, which was a recommendation of the bond council. So that makes up the biggest piece of that difference. And the second piece of that is sometimes you can have different categories of fund balance. You have a portion that's called non-spendable, which is really makes up of inventory and prepaid items. So the idea there is non-spendable are not really available for operations. Therefore, when you're talking about a fund balance policy, you don't want to include your non-spendable items when you're looking at that, at where you need to be. So those are the 2 main differences between total fund balance, unassigned fund balance. The good news is you can see you squeaked it out. $4,071,000 is $12,000 higher than the minimum at the 15%. So that hasn't happened since 2017. So that is a direct reflection
Might not
of.
use that word, but.
That's a direct reflection of managing the expenses, being able to go ahead and get that higher levy rate that you guys have done. And it's good to see you guys right back in that spot. If we look at the revenues a little bit closer.
Next page.
Yeah, next page.
I know.
You're just paying attention so much.
I am.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so looking at your revenues, again, current year revenues were $25,690,000. That was up about $1.2 million year over year. Your dollars came in different pies, or different wedges of the pie. Your local dollars were the $11,894,000, which is effectively your levy dollars. Like there's some other dollars in there, local dollars, but primarily that's going to be your levy dollars coming in. That was relatively unchanged year over year, but it was up about $243,000, which just really represents like the way the collections work and new construction, those type of things will sometimes push that number up. The big story of the year was your state money, and this is what we've seen across on all the districts that I've audited this year. State money was at the $13,720,000, which was up about $887,000 year over year. So state had done holdbacks in 21, but then they went ahead and increased the base support, like the per support unit, a significant increase this last year. So you had that working for you, and the district also had your support units go up from 106.6 to 108.3. So you had an increase in your support units, and you also had a per support unit funding increase, and both of those pieces led to about $887,000 more dollars coming in from the state this last year, which is great. The other revenue was really just related to leases or the new accounting standards, so that's lease financing money that came in. And your transfer revenue, that $33,000, was primarily you have an indirect cost reimbursement coming from your federal programs that come back into the general fund. If we look at the next graph, I always like to take a look at just your percentages, local dollars coming in versus state dollars, get a sense of where you've been. Historically, your 10-year average has been 45.9% local, 53.2% federal, and you guys are just right in that same sort of percentage as last year. You can see you did have a change from 19 to 20, the increase of the levy. Obviously, now you're bringing more levy dollars, so those ratios sort of change around a little bit. One thing that I always like to point out is the higher the reliance on local dollars to fund the school or to fund the general fund, typically that also goes with a need to have a higher fund balance. And the reason that is your levy dollars come in twice a year, right? And you guys all know this, but it comes in twice a year, or you get a big payment in your 7th month of school, and then you also get a big payment in your 13th month. So, and there is a 13 months, right? So it's coming in after the end of the year. The district had a receivable, so you get to report this as revenue, but you don't have the cash in the door. About $3.7 million of that levy dollars that don't come in until July. So that represents about 15% of all of the general fund revenues that you get to count as revenue, but you don't see that coming in the door. So typically that means that you need to have more fund balance in order to have those cash flows available in order to go ahead and run the school and pay for all the bills. So your state money comes in early and it's front loaded and you get payments more often. So the state money tends to fund at a quicker rate than the levy dollars. On the expenditure side, next graph. Total expenditures last year were $25,314,000. That was an increase of about $1,114,000 year over year. Instruction expenses accounted for $15,086,000, which was an increase of about $336,000 year over year. Primarily that increase was salaries and benefits, what's going along with the approved raises that were done for fiscal year 22. On the support side, total support expenditures were $9,415,000, which were up about $409,000 year over year. Salaries and benefits made up about $200,000 of that. The remaining $200,000 were your purchase services were up about $71,000. Really, there were some additional facilities expenses that you had in fiscal year 22 that you didn't have in 21. And your materials and supplies were up about $128,000 year over year. Primarily, custodial expenses were up $35,000 year over year, and your transportation costs went up about $61,000. So that were the two big differences there on the support side. Your transfers, so these are going to be dollars that you transferred out of the general fund to other places, $809,000. That was up about $360,000 year over year. The transfers that the general fund made were $421,000 to the capital projects fund. So we'll talk about some of those expenditures, but general fund made that transfer, $421,000. Also made a transfer of $166,000 for your bus depreciation. So this is a required transfer that you make every single year. $195,000 transfer to your Medicaid fund for your portion of your Medicaid match, and $25,000 over to the child nutrition or food service fund. If we look at your 10-year history, so the next page, thank you. Finding the ribbon now. Again, looking at your 10-year history, ended the year with 37.2% of your dollars spent on support, 59.6% spent on instruction, and that's, again, almost right in your 10-year historical average. Typically, as sort of a baseline, I always look at this as a 45-55 split, so having more dollars to instruction, I always tend to equate to a positive when you're talking about how you're splitting your dollars. But again, you've been pretty solid, same percentage as last year in terms of your support, and it's not fluctuating very much more than 1% a year in the last 6 years or so. If we look at your total payroll and benefits this last year, again, total payroll, $21,681,000. That was an increase of just over $500,000 year over year, which equates to about the 2% raise of the group. And you can see, it's kind of going back a year, you actually had that dip from 20 to 21, and then we're back up to 22, sort of similar to that level where we were in 20. The reason for the dip last year was partially because some of those salaries were able to be covered by COVID dollars, so they were transferred over to some other benefits. If we look at your payroll and benefits, just your expenditures from a payroll and benefit and other perspective on the next page. The big pie here, obviously, is payroll and benefits. The $21,680,000 that we talked about represented 85.6% of all the general fund expenditures. So at the time you sign all those contracts at the beginning of the year, you sign yourself up for 85% of your expenses. Your other expenses were 14%, and that's going to be everything else. So that's your utilities, your capital outlay, your supplies, materials, purchase services. That was up year over year about $600,000, but again, the primary reason for that was those additional transfers that you made to your capital projects from this last year. If you look at your 10-year history on payroll and benefits versus others, again, I kind of look at a 85-15 split as a baseline. You guys have been right in there. Your average has been pretty close, 85.6%. Been right in that 85% amount for the last couple of years. So right where you need to be. You can see you have this little bit of a bump in the other expenses in this current year from the 12.5 to that 14.4, and again, that's just going to be those additional transfers, how that sort of equates to your dollars being spent. But I look at this and you're right where kind of that baseline that I look for, and as important is you're not seeing very much fluctuation for the 10 years that you guys have here. So that's where we are with that. I wanted to jump over and talk about the debt service fund real fast. Debt service started the year with a fund balance of $1,112,000. Revenues of $928 represented your levy dollars of about $906,000 that came in. Bond equalization payment represented the other $22,000 that the state provides to the district. Had principal payments about $470,000 and interest payments of $281,000 this last year, and it ended the fund balance with $1,288,000, which was an increase of about $176,000. So you guys have $7,130,000 to go on your bond. It's expected to be paid off in fiscal year 34. The other thing I always like to point out is this ending fund balance. Sometimes I get questions as, well, why do we have that much of fund balance at the end of the year? That $1.2 or $1.3 million is really there to be able to make your August payment. So you have your August payment due, which is the big one, principal and interest. That's about $630,000 that you guys end up paying in this upcoming year. So that's your debt service. If you look at your capital projects fund, capital projects started the year with $1,010,000. Had revenues of $629,000 this year, which was effectively those transfers we talked about. And you had a little bit of local revenue coming in to this fund as well. Spent $357,000 on capital projects. So that would have been the intercom upgrades, elevator upgrades, the Lena playground, and some of the scoreboard and press box. Those were all things that were paid for out of the capital projects fund this last year. Ended the year with a fund balance of $1,282,000, an increase of about $272,000. This money is available for future projects and any future bus purchases. That's what this fund's kind of set up for, as you guys already know. Overall, it was a good financial year for the district. And this has sort of been the story the last couple of years with all the COVID dollars and the way that districts have been able to utilize those COVID dollars. I've seen the general fund increase in almost every district that I've been doing audits on. So I think that's good. Sort of a unattended benefit of the COVID situation and all the dollars. But your general fund's in a good spot. It's nice to see it peaking out and making it into that 15%. All the remaining funds look good. And I think just as a recap, I just want to thank management and Greg and Jen and say thank you for everything you've done. Seems like the board and management are doing a good job of managing the finances. That's what I got for you tonight. You guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, sure. Again, you said there were two reasons for the difference between the total fund balance and the unassigned fund balance.
Yes.
But I don't remember you saying how much of
Gotcha.
that difference is related to either one.
Well, I'll tell you. The bond rating, $550,000.
Okay.
And then
So
your
the
non-spendable
non-spendable
is effectively the rest. It's $251,000, and there's a little bit of restricted dollars that are really related to grants that are restricted dollars that are run through the general fund. But $251 is the non-spendable component.
Great.
Absolutely. Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Survive another audit presentation.
Thank you,
very
Tom.
much.
This might be a time to also thank our audit committee. We have a committee that's made up of community members that have a background in auditing, or we have one that he used to teach governmental accounting, so he's just Mr. Knowledge. Really impressive, but we just appreciate the work they did. And sit down and they go through it, the whole thick book, and read it piece by piece and give advice and make sure everything's clear, and it's pretty impressive when you sit there and listen to them.
It is. The audit committee is great. I have a number of districts that don't have them, and then I have some that do, and it just feels like it's nice to have that focused group that are really designed to look at the audit and really the financial statement. I mean, the audit's just whether we believe they're fairly stated or not. The real deal there is to look at the financial statements and make sure that they feel good about where all those numbers are, and go through all the questions and the details and well, I think this word should be here and I think that word should be there and what's this about? So all of that's just a great sort of foundational piece to what ends up here for the board to take a look at, so. Appreciate everybody who's on that committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, you guys have a good night.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, so we will move on to discussion item D. C, I skipped one. C, the first reading of section 6, parent and family engagement. Carrie Brooks.
All right, thank you. So some background information in accordance with ESSA section 1116A. The LEA will have a family engagement policy that describes how the LEA will develop a Title I plan, build capacity to improve academic achievement, coordinate with other programs, and include evidence-based strategies. The rationale for this request is the LEA is responsible for operating its categorical programs in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. Therefore, it is our responsibility as a district, it is our responsibility to have a district family engagement policy that is aligned to ESSA section 1116A. So, do you want me to go ahead and do it? I mean, I know I can't really make a recommendation now because it's a first reading, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
I guess I had a question about item E4, collaborating with business leaders to offer opportunities for family school engagement. Do you have any thoughts on what that would look like?
Well, I think at the building level, I think all of our schools, because this is a district policy, but essentially each building, Title I building also, it's the bigger umbrella of all of that. So I think it's when they have businesses come in, for instance, I'm thinking of, well, this one isn't really for Title I, but if we were to have, there's an officer coming in at the high school to talk about drug prevention or something like that, it's bringing in the public. This would be more in an academic lens, but I know that each of our Title I buildings do have those types of opportunities, so I don't know what that would look like. That would fall for, under, I would think it would give them the opportunity to partner with businesses and organizations.
It's also, we've got things going on, Renee Bafis, who works with us, is just doing the job or fair. And it used to be just colleges, for students to point out colleges. And if you notice that they are gonna add businesses to that too. So for businesses to come in and demonstrate, or discuss with the students, possibilities, job possibilities as well. It's also ability to, schools to come in and bring in, companies bring in professionals to talk about, what they need to learn and so forth to help them in that profession. So.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments on the first reading? Okay, we good then? All right. Okay, so thank you, Carrie. And so now we move to discussion item D, update assignments, review board policies. Dr. Bailey.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is, we had two different areas or three different areas that we were looking at, and it was too large, especially now. What I want to move to is the student section, which is section 5 of our policies, to go through that. I looked at all the different items and I kind of grouped them by what they are discussing. So like I have one group for attendance and student records, second a grouping as just student conduct, then student activities, and then one group that's welfare of students, child abuse and neglect, and education of homeless students. And then also another group that was student progress, early graduation, graduation of students with disabilities. And then the final group, foreign exchange students and religious activities in schools. Those are different categories under that student, under students, policies regarding students. What I've done at this point is I'd like my administrators to go through this first and then bring it to you. I think it gives them kind of a chance to do a first review and do it during times that so they don't have to meet at this time. I've got it where I figure I can have about 4 administrators on each topic, each of those groupings. So I'm kind of trying to get elementary and secondary involved, as well as Carrie and Shannon are also. So I'll be talking to them. I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk to them for a couple of weeks as a group because of just all the things that they're having to do in the school buildings. But this, we'll start working on this and be able to, we'll be going through the policies, Idaho School Boards Association recommended policies, and we compare them and see what fits our school district versus what they have and what the legal issues and so forth. And then I try to overlook it afterwards and make sure that we're meeting all the state laws, and Angie does a lot of that as well.
Okay. So what's kind of the timeline roughly?
It's gonna take about at least, I wanna give the administrators at least a month to do this, just because they've got so many other things to do as well. And then we'll bring that to them. So, and since we have a shorter time to this next meeting, it'll probably be December that we bring it to you.
And is the other PDF, the section 3000, is that from the Idaho School Boards Association?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Further questions? Okay. Right, on to item E, update strategic plan process. Dr. Bailey.
Okay, sorry, missed that one. Okay, I just to update you where we're at this point. We've done the survey. We did that last year. We gathered information from there. Then goals, focus goals were written at that point as a draft, reviewed by administration, and then presented to roundtable groups. We had 2 groups. A couple members of those groups are here tonight, but we didn't have as much turnout as I wanted. We invited everyone who stated in that survey that they were interested in being on that roundtable. So we offered it to every single person that asked. And some people stated they were gonna be there and didn't show up, and then some people just couldn't make the date. But we did get feedback during that. They went in and looked at the focus goals and made some adjustments. We'll be presenting those. I want to sit down with our administrative staff and also show it to our building leadership groups as well. And then we'll be presenting those to the community as well, and then to the board for review and final commitment to these goals. We had a lot of comments within during the roundtable, which were interesting. Some of the comments I did notice that were things that we are currently doing, but it just tells us that, okay, we need to be able to focus on those things that we are doing already and probably help identify where that information is and so forth. So that's so one of the things I think we'll probably end up doing is I think our web page needs to be reviewed and maybe more user friendly. Saw that. So that was one thing that I think we can get working on. But the next steps is once we do agree upon the focus goals, and then we will start breaking those down into SMART goals, into goals that, you know, step by step to get to where we want to be in 5 years. And that's what the plan is it's basically a strategic 5-year strategic plan. Each year we'll have goals and basic SMART goals, you know, they got to be attainable as well as, you know, data driven and also focused and then
Measurable.
measurable. Thank you. A lot of different things that spells SMART. But you know, we'll have those and as you asked, as we go through this, it will be a thing we will present at each board meeting of how we're doing on those and progress. But right now, I think a lot of them are I think we can break them down and make them achievable. I think the biggest one that we have is the facilities. Is one that we are looking at, and like I said, with the legislators finally talking to it and maybe giving us a helping support, I think it's something that is achievable. At least a good start on it. So that's where we're currently at right now. Just updating. Yeah.
So can I ask a couple
Yep.
questions? So I guess looking at the spreadsheet, the comments from Roundtable's spreadsheet, it looked like somebody tallied all the dots that were, I guess, assigned to different comments or something. Do we have those sorted anywhere as to which ones? Because some of them got 0 dots, and then some of them seem to have got 5 and 6 dots. I mean, I can do that myself, but did anyone do that?
Well, how they did it is they did it on a big sheet of paper, and they had sticky notes, and they all wrote them. And I take it after that, which is typical, is they are given so many dots, just like we do during interest based, and then they select those. I think what we'll be able to do with those, and all I try to do is encompass all the comments that were there, every single one on that paper. And I think I was able to do that. One of the things that I saw was some of the comments that didn't have dots matched up to ones that did have heavy dots. So it pretty much tells me that
overlap
that they overlapped and everyone said, well, I like this comment the best, and let's keep it here so that, you know, it gets attention and so forth. So we'll be bringing those into more focus.
Okay. And then there's multiple files that talk about 5-year strategic plans. So I was trying to figure them out. One's from edited from a roundtable. Another one seems to be from a survey.
That's I kind of put those in order of the process that we went through. You know, the first was from the surveys, the responses we got from the surveys, and Lisa, who did the presentation, worked, and she went through all of them and kind of gave a percentage of how many people talked about this, and you know, so forth. And you saw that when I gave you the first set of goals, and I think you guys would have probably received that too, and those were, I believe, posted. But it just kind of gave us an idea of, you know, how those first initial goals were developed based off of those comments of the survey. So, and then it just kind of the whole process, I just was trying to gather and show all the different documents that I've tried to keep on.
You've been busy.
Yeah. Well, it took a long time to write all those comments down and the stickies were getting shaky, so it was, but hopefully I got all the comments down and then I know the two roundtable groups want us to share in what we want to do, is share comments as we go through too, so I appreciate the folks that did come and talk and give some ideas. We backed away to make sure that people felt comfortable talking without us being there. I just thought that was good, but I did go and greet them and it was just, hope they enjoyed it.
Okay.
I might have missed something. Was there overlap between the constituency of Group 1 and Group 2?
No.
Okay.
No. They were, I divided them basically up, and then I had to switch a few people because they said, well, hey, I can't make this. And I go, well, I got a person over here that can't make that. So I was trying everything I possibly could to get them to be able to make it. We sent out an email invitation to them, and then Angie contacted ones who did not respond to us, and RSVP, not respond, but RSVP to us, just trying to make sure that they knew they were invited. We had a few staff members, but it was mainly community members that were there.
Okay. Others? Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Bailey, for all of this. So, all right, so we move on to item F, the update on the superintendent search process. So, I've signed the memorandum of understanding with the ISBA, so we have officially hired them, and they will be sending us the bill for the first payment. I don't know if Angie's gotten it yet. They emailed me and said it's on its way. And then the other part of that is we have a $4,000 reimbursement coming from the state on this. And so I'm assuming we'll use all of it for this because it doesn't really matter, because if we don't use all of it, we'll use it for like a board training later, and so either way, it's gonna come out of our budget, so it doesn't really matter where we spend the reimbursement first. So we'll go ahead and use that 4,000, and so that the total price is what, 8,000 something, 8,700 roughly, and so the 4,000 will be reimbursed. We have to pay it, submit the reimbursement form to the state, and then the state sends us the money. I do not know how long it is before they get us the money, so.
Do you know if that's by calendar year or fiscal year or how?
That's, but by the, what is it, fiscal?
Fiscal.
Yeah, it's fiscal, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's done and working. I got feedback from all of you on what we would like to see in a superintendent ideas, and so that's been to the ISBA. I got your feedback on the timeline that the ISBA sent us, and I've sent that back to them for adjustments. So that's all going, and so the next step that they're gonna be starting to do here at the first part of November is they're gonna create a survey that will go out to stakeholders. So to staff, all staff and teachers, to others, and so that people can give feedback on this survey of what they would like to see in a superintendent, so that all that data will be collected.
So is that community or just staff?
All those.
Yeah.
Okay, all
all of it.
stakeholders.
Yeah,
Okay.
all stakeholders. So it will go out to all stakeholders, and then we'll just see who responds to the survey, obviously. But we also have provided the ISBA with photographs and statistics and data on the school district, because they're gonna put together a brochure for us that will go out to, as part of their advertisements for superintendents, and so it will be a national search, and so they'll send it out nationally. And they have a list of where they're gonna send it out to, and I'll send that to you, because they also said if we want above that into certain extra newspapers or other things, we can let them know, but there could be extra cost, because that's over and above what they normally do. But I'll send that out to all of you. And so you can see if there's anything else we want. And so the goal is that they'll have all of this ready for us so that we can open the search at the 1st of December. So start that promotion at the 1st of December, right about there. And then the deadline will be near the end of January for that. And then they'll start putting together all of the applicants for us, so that we can narrow it down. And one of the things, and that I'm working with them on, because this was something that we brought up, so the candidates will come in, the short list that we pick will come in, and we'll do a set of, we'll interview them, but they'll also have a meeting with the staff and administrators so they can ask them questions, and with the public so that they can ask them questions. And so I'm setting it up, and that's what we did with you.
Yeah.
And so they were gonna do it just kind of one, and so I'm working with them that is actually will be, so we have one on one day, one on another day, that kind of idea. So then that way, you're not trying to cram in say if we have 3 candidates, we're not trying to stick them all in one day. Because that would be horrendous, because we want to give people a chance to do it. That'd be hard on those candidates too, having them run around. So all of that is progressing then. And so they're putting together the brochure now, and they will send it to us to edit and to look at it. Do we like the way it looks? Does it convey what Musco School District is properly, to entice applicants? And so as soon as they're done with that, they'll get it to it. So we'll review it, request any changes. And so that will be happening in November. They'll have it all back to us so that they can open up the position. And that's the main things right now. And you've all seen the rest of the timeline, so.
So Dr. Bailey, do you have any thoughts on where most superintendents, at least Idaho superintendents, look for openings? Like what are the most useful advertising venues?
Where they look for them, actually, IASA and ISBA are probably the places they look. Idaho is small enough that it's word of mouth too.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So once you guys get an advertisement out, I'm happy to send it out, to spread it, because we can send it to all the different regions, and it will get sent out to those places.
And you get, assuming all of you get the email too, that a district in Idaho is hiring a superintendent, and so it comes to us as well in case we know anybody that we can send to that district and spread the word. So.
And they send them. I probably get 1 or 2 a month from different locations that they, throughout. So the AASA, which is the National Association of School Administrators, will also publish. So.
But I don't know, do you think there's much advantage to out-of-state newspapers? I mean,
Probably not as much the newspapers as the association.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, cause they're doing, the
That's.
ISBA is gonna
yeah.
do the national associations,
Yeah.
they're gonna cover them all,
okay.
as well as the Idaho associations.
Okay.
You go in a newspaper, you'll get superintendents, the construction superintendents will start filling out applications and so. Yeah.
And we are getting a jump. And so the ISBA said they're first on their list. We've got the jump because, and also with us opening it the first part of December, we're beating all of the other districts in Idaho that are hiring because most of them are not going to be opening their positions until January. So we've got like a month lead on everybody else, so, which is good.
That's what I wanted.
So,
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, I want you guys to be able to get a good soup. I want the good things to continue.
Well, we appreciate your advance notice.
And so once we are further into the process, we'll be having to meet to figure out interview questions, other details that, but you know, at this point, they're just getting everything rolling, so.
So keep our calendars free, is that what you're?
Yeah, I may be sending out emails saying we need to have
Hold up on that.
we need to have an
critical
executive
Aruba.
meeting there, and so, an executive board meeting or whatever, so that we can figure out.
Thankfully, I'll
those
be
things.
teaching, so I'll
So.
be here.
But, yeah, but I don't know that until we get a little further into the process of when that's gonna be, so.
And as I told you before, you know, those meetings that if the candidate can meet with all those different groups, I mean, it was a long day. It started at 7:30 and ended at 10:30 at night. But I learned a lot that day of what each group wanted, and what their concerns were. So it was a very valuable day for me, as well as you shared the survey results to me too, so that was something that I could go back to and see, so.
And we'll just see what we get in the application pool, so. All right, anything else on that one? Questions on it? Okay, so we move on to our first action item, Moscow Charter School Annual Accountability Review. Dr. Bailey.
Okay, as a charter authorizer, Moscow School District requires the Moscow Charter School to complete an annual accountability report along with a financial audit. Accountability report provides evidence of compliance to requirements outlined in their charter, and the financial audit details compliance with financial reporting. Meeting of the Moscow Charter School Board of Directors has been held to approve their financial audit, and Hayden Ross has just presented the financial audit report. All necessary data has now been provided for approval of the Moscow Charter School's annual accountability report. They present me with information, and I go through a spreadsheet, basically scoring each. Again, they did an excellent job. I credit Tony and his board. Tony isn't here tonight because he was taking care of his son. So, but he wanted me to acknowledge. I'm sure he's watching on YouTube. They did really well. There's a couple areas. Their staff, you know, they got dock points, which this makes sense. They only meet standards for their mandatory testing of percentage of proficiency in math. They did meet the state proficiency rate. They didn't exceed it, so 4 out of 5, so they dropped 20 points there. Let me go through this. Also, their teachers, 90% of teachers evaluated scores proficient or distinguished on this metric. They got 30 points rather than 50. And 50, they'd have to have 100% of the teachers evaluated score of distinguished. And so that's still a good score. Very good. all the other areas, they did really well. We did, due to reporting requirements, since we are dealing with that busing issue and it was theirs, I had to dock them 10 points on that issue. Even though I'm in agreement with them, but I felt since it was a reporting issue. So, but they did get, any points 600 or greater exceeds the standards. They ended up with 700 points, so they did exceed the standards for their charter school. And they did that last year as well, so we're happy with everything is in its place and done, and their scores are looking good, so.
I would, yeah, there was some concern on the student proficiency. There's one grade that appears to be suffering. I wonder if there's any information on that?
Is that on the 5th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is actually, sometimes some grades will struggle, and it's below the state. And you notice it's
In both ELA and math.
in the math area as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ours were lower in 5th grade too,
Yeah.
so maybe it's the test.
and it's in all those, so one grade, but they still met the requirements by so many grades being above proficient, so, you know. I don't have access to specifics beyond that, I just can look at the scores. Overall scores is what they have to present to me.
So I had a question about the spreadsheet. I must be missing something, but it says total points earned 190. And then the scoring guide talks about,
Look at the very bottom.
well, I see the 700, but what's the 190?
There were subtotals.
Yeah, I don't know, that's confusing to me too.
Oh, total points earned, that was just that section.
Mhm.
That was just the section. If you go through the chart, you'll see that they have total points earned. For some reason, they break them down, like 1A, 1B is then it gives you a total there, and then you go to another page and total, so
Yeah, so those are subtotals.
they're subtotals. So 190 was the subtotal of that section.
So 190 plus something is 700? Or
Yeah,
190
when you
plus
start
700
adding
is
up all
something?
the subtotals, you come up with 700.
Where are the other? Oh, there's I see 100 there.
Yeah, you just have to look through it carefully because they're kind of hidden on that form.
Where's the?
Kind of a goofy form, but
Okay.
Oh, I
Section
see.
5 doesn't seem to have a subtotal, does it? 4 has a
yes, it's on
subtotal.
a separate page. It goes all the way back. Well, section 5 is the one. Wait, no,
Separate
that
page.
is. It ends up being part of 6.
Page or sheet?
Huh?
I guess I'll take your word for it. There's an 80. There's a 200.
Yeah, the form is kind of hard to read the way they set it up.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's a spreadsheet, and you would think it would self-add, and it doesn't. I'm like,
Yeah, that was
Why
the
do I
other thing I
use a
noticed.
Because you have to look at it
Yeah,
carefully
yeah.
and spot the
I got the
subtotals
total.
all the way through.
yeah, I was like, okay.
All right, thank you. Well, I will move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 approve the 2021-2022 Annual Accountability Report for Moscow Charter School.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The Board of Trustees approves the Musco Charter School Accountability Report 5-0. Right, on to item B, Musco School District Financial Audit. Jennifer.
Yes, the district is required to obtain the services of an independent auditor for an annual financial audit. Hayden Ross is the firm that conducts the audit for the district. The purpose of the annual financial audit is to review financial statements and records to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Hayden Ross has audited each major fund and the financial statements for the fiscal year ending '22.
Well, I'll move that the Board of Trustees, District Number 281, hereby approves the 2021-22 financial audit for the Moscow School District.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
I really like the last 10 pages or so. They're always fascinating.
Oh, the statistics.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank all the district employees, the administration, as well as the teachers and everything for keeping our financial boat sailing straight, I guess.
Yeah, and
During troubling
we hit that
times.
15% now, so.
Yeah, well.
That's good. So.
See what our revised budget looks like.
Well, yeah, there's always that, but at least it looks good right now.
It looks good now. We're moving in the right direction.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and so any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so the Board of Trustees hereby approves the financial audit for Moscow School District 5-0. On to item C, second reading, job description, purchasing accounts payable clerk. Dr. Bailey.
Okay, job descriptions are reviewed when there is a resignation or a retirement. This is the second reading for the job description for the purchasing accounts payable clerk. Changes discussed last month have been made along with a few additional revisions.
I will move that the Board of Trustees of Musco School District Number 281 hereby approves the revised job description for the purchasing accounts payable clerk.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Sorry, I'm just catching up. I would, there was an edit. And I caught it at the last meeting, on the other job announcement, but number 4, I guess I got the two of them confused. I just, I thought there was a better way to word number 4, perform tasks in an environment with distractions and interruptions. And again, I didn't know if we could reword that to just say prioritizing tasks.
Number 4?
Number 4?
Qualifications.
Under qualifications.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I see.
Just seems to me like it could read as ability to understand and prioritizing tasks while I forget how we worded it in the other one.
I remember you talking about that.
Let me go back. I will tell you. Prioritize tasks independently with competing demands.
You see, under qualifications.
Yeah, because he made that same one on the next job
I did.
description. So I didn't know if it was on both of them.
I think last month I didn't catch it on the previous one.
Okay.
So I'll just bring that over onto this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And prioritize independently with competing demands, you want that to say there?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So we have a motion on that, so the motion with that adjustment?
Yep.
Okay, that's the second, okay. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, so the Board of Trustees hereby approves the revised jobs description for purchasing accounts payable clerk 5-0. We move on to item D, job description, curriculum and data assessment specialist. Dr. Bailey?
Okay, and this is the second reading for the job description for the curriculum and data assessment specialist. Changes discussed last month have been made along with a few additional revisions. Okay, and then, so same.
I will move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 approve the revised job description for the curriculum and data assessment specialist.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the Board of Trustees hereby approves the revised job description for the curriculum and data assessment specialist 5-0. So we move on to item E, trustee resignation, declaration of trustee vacancy. And so, I need to read that whole thing.
No.
The Idaho code. So it's pursuant to Idaho Code 33504.
Vacancies on the Board of
Yeah,
Trustees.
vacancies on the Board of Trustees. And so, on that note, I will turn it over to you, Carolyn.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that it's been an honor and a privilege to serve as the board member for Zone 3 since 2020. I'm proud to be a part of such a dedicated organization. We truly have some amazing leadership and staff who strive to make a difference for those around them and their students daily. As a member of the board, I strove to support the unwavering efforts to continue to improve our school system. I found I simply need to be more available for my family. For those who are interested in applying for the position, I would encourage you to become familiar with the leadership within our district and our schools prior to applying. We are very fortunate to live in this community with a district who continues to strive for improvements and excellence. We can continue to serve our students and staff by listening with open ears and committing to working together toward the common goal of serving our students.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. I'm sorry to see you go, but I understand it. The new baby plus the other little kids is, too much. So, but
Thank you,
we'll be sorry to see you go.
Yeah. And we can state that she will be resigning as of effective 12/14, so December 14th. So she will stay on the board until we are able to bring on a new board member. So appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if I can add a few, just because I know people are wondering about the process and so forth, so there's parts of this that I will read. Vacancies on boards, a vacancy shall be declared by the Board of Trustees when any nominee, and actually the first thing we should do, because I remember, is before we move forward to what we have to do, you have to make a motion to declare
the
that the
vacancy,
vacancy is
yeah.
open, so I would recommend you do that, and then I'll
I
go
was
through
gonna
this
interrupt you.
process. What?
I was gonna interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District Number 281 hereby declares that a vacancy exists for the position of trustee for Zone Number 3, and applicants will be sought to fill the remainder of the term, which expires at the end of 2023. We don't have to include any date of.
No.
Don't we have to say
As
what
a
the vacancy is?
Did you
Yes.
state 12?
That's what I would do, because
What's
it
that?
doesn't exist now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as of 12/14.
Right.
Yeah, you do need to have that in there.
Yeah, because it's not immediate.
So it should read, hereby declares that a vacancy exists as of 12/14/22 for the position of trustee for Zone Number 3, and applicants will be sought to fill the remainder of the term, which expires at the end of 2023.
do we need to include a time frame for when people are supposed to be
That's-
applying? I mean, they don't wanna wait till December 14th, right?
That's in the
That's-
process.
Process,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, cause the process is once it's been declared, then there's so long that you
Yeah.
have to have it open,
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
I'm not gonna second it.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
I don't know if I can.
That's what we do.
Yeah, Carolyn probably should not second it, yes.
I'll second it reluctantly.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the Board of Trustees declares that a vacancy exists as stated, 5-0. And now we can read what the process is now that we have a vacancy.
And if you want, we do have it, we can post this code, but it is Idaho Code 33504, and if you put that in the news, I mean, in the internet, you'll come up right up to it. But what we need to know for tonight is such declaration of vacancy shall be made at any regular special meeting of the Board of Trustees at which any of the above mentioned conditions are determined to exist, and one is resignation as trustee. The Board of Trustees shall appoint to such vacancy a person qualified to serve as a trustee of the school district, provided there remains in membership on the Board of Trustees a majority of the membership thereof. And the board shall notify the state superintendent of public instruction of the appointment. Such appointment shall be made within 90 days of the declaration of vacancy. After 90 days, if the Board of Trustees is unable to appoint a trustee from the zone vacated, the Board of Trustees may appoint a person at large, at large from within the boundaries of the school district to serve as a trustee from the zone where the vacancy occurred. Otherwise, after 120 days from the declaration of vacancy, appointments shall be made by the Board of County Commissioners of the county in which the district is situated, or of the home county if the district is a joint district. Any person appointed as herein provided shall serve for the balance of the unexpired term of the office which was declared vacant and filled by appointment. This position is Zone 3. And the election for this position will be next November. So the person would be fulfilling the position from December to the following November, and then if they want to, they would run again. Standard, what we have done in the past and is we will advertise in the newspaper 2 times a week for a total of 4 weeks, so 8 times. And advertise, and we'll begin that and do that on Wednesdays and Saturday's paper, starting November 2nd. What a person would need to do is they have to be in Zone 3. Now those zones change due to, the consensus. So you can go to our website, Moscow's or MSD281.org, and look up trustees, and under Zone 3 will be a new map of that zone. So the person would need to send to Angie, as the clerk of the school district, a letter of interest. And at that point, what I would recommend that the week of November 28th to 2nd, you review those letters of interest, and then December 7th that week, you would have anyone who has applied for the position do an interview. The board selects the person out of the group of people that have given a letter of interest. So that's pretty much the process. And then they would be sworn in on at the December 14th meeting.
Yeah,
At
the
the
goal,
very
the goal
beginning.
would be then Carolyn's done and hopefully we have a replacement right then.
Right.
This is the idea,
Yeah.
so. And that fits within our 90-day time limit, so we're all right there. Okay,
Any questions or that?
any other, the requirement, okay. All right,
May I say one thing?
Yep.
This will also be posted on our website, probably on the main page for anyone that is interested in applying for the position. So it's not just gonna be in the newspaper.
okay, great, thank you. All right, we move on to the consent agenda.
I'm not gonna ask any questions. I will move that the Board of Trustees of Moscow School District number 281 approve all items listed under the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda has been passed, or approved, 5-0. So we now move on to our second public comment period. Public comments is a time to present concerns, issues, and information to the Board of Trustees. The board hears your comments but does not answer questions or respond at this time, but may ask the superintendent or designee to respond to the issue presented if further action is warranted. And the reason why we do not respond or answer questions or discuss is because it is not on the agenda and we can only talk about what's on the agenda. So please state your name for the record. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Are there any public comments? Okay, if you would come to the podium, please. That way you're on camera.
Thank you. My name is Vince Hadley. I am a concerned parent here in the Moscow School District. I have 7 children, so I have an interest in what's going on. As you've watched over the past several months, school boards and schools, districts at large across the United States have become battlegrounds, as you've probably seen and observed. I mean, there's a lot of topics being introduced in the school system that weren't there 5 years ago. Topics that a lot of people have they're controversial. LGBTQ topics, gender fluidity. We have people redefining the definition of what women are. We have a lot of things being introduced educationally that are really creating a problem, and a lot of parents are scared of what's going on in the schools. They don't trust educators for what will be taught that day in their schools. And some are pulling their kids out, or even more so than ever before because of this. They want to protect their children. Others are going to, so what I'm talking about here is how do we keep the Moscow School District from becoming such a battleground? How do we keep it so the parents want to keep their kids in schools, especially these pillars of the community that are active, they're involved, that they want to do that. And so I have a potential solution that might help this. If you consider the model that we've been following since the 1960s of separation of church and state, where certain topics are just, we don't talk about in the school systems. You're not allowed to bring religion in and talk about your faith as a teacher or anything like that. That's something that's not supposed to be there. Because people get offended and stuff like this. Well, and it's a private philosophy. If we take that model and study it, I'm not proposing exactly the right language here. I don't have that prepared. This would take some more effort to do that. But if we were to provide a policy as a school board to keep this school board safe before all this stuff really starts dumping in and people start taking activist roles as teachers and stuff like that, and you never know who they are. My children already described some of this now. But if we study this model and create a policy where these topics are just not going to be in our school systems, these controversial topics, which are more philosophical than they are science, just keep them out. And remember where we were 5 years ago before this started, and keep it that way, where parents feel it's safe to have their children here. I would propose that we consider this very carefully. We've been successfully doing it for 40, 50 years on topics that are very dear to a lot of people's hearts. We're in religion and God. I think we can follow a similar model here in the Moscow School District that might prepare, keep it a safe place, and parents can trust and continue to feel be involved in the community versus withdraw. Because this is going to go really bad in the years ahead. You can see this happening. unless we take proactive measurements now instead of reactive measures later. You can imagine what I'm saying here, you might find 500 people show up at the auditorium like we had a few years ago on a different topic who will feel very strongly about this.
Sorry.
So that's what I would suggest to consider.
Sorry, that was the 3 minutes. Sorry,
I think
it was
I
a little
got it
loud.
said, but I think about, I represent what you can probably consider almost a majority of the parents in the school system. And so I think now, thinking ahead, we can save ourselves a lot of pain and keep it where people trust and then keep it focused on reading, writing, arithmetic. So I'd like to leave it at that, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right.
Would you like me to, the first gentleman, to
Sure.
respond back to him?
Yes, yes, because he was asking direct questions,
Yeah,
and so
I'd
we
be
need to
happy to
respond
do
to those, so. All right, and then that finishes it, so I then adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jim.
And I was expecting the meeting to go